Hi, I'm Phoebe. I've been married to Marcus for 5 years now, and despite what my stepfather thinks, we're actually really happy together. We bought our first house last year. Nothing fancy, but it's ours, with a backyard where Marcus grows vegetables. Babe, do you think the sauce needs more basil? Marcus held out a wooden spoon for me to taste. It's perfect. Mom's going to love it. I kissed his cheek. Marcus nodded, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. You sure your stepdad won't make some comment about real Italian cooking again? I sighed. I've asked him to be nice. Mom promised she'd keep him in check. That was wishful thinking. In the 15 years Richard had been married to my mom, Diane, he'd never been in check a day in his life. Everything was always his way or the highway. Phoebe, you should wear the blue dress tonight. It looks more appropriate for hosting. My sister Amy walked into the kitchen, already picking at the appetizers. I'm comfortable in what I'm wearing, thanks. I smoothed down my favorite red sweater, the one Marcus gave me for Christmas. Amy rolled her eyes. Richard always says hosts should dress up for their guests. It's just respectful. Well, Richard isn't hosting this dinner, we are, Marcus said quietly, not looking up from chopping parsley. That's the thing about Marcus. He never raises his voice, but he doesn't back down either. It drives Richard crazy. A high school English teacher doesn't fit Richard's idea of a real man. According to him, real men wear power suits and intimidate people in boardrooms. Did you at least get that wine Richard recommended? Amy asked, checking her phone. We got wine we can afford, I replied, setting down plates with more force than necessary. The doorbell rang and my stomach knotted. Marcus squeezed my hand before I went to answer it. Happy birthday, Mom! I hugged my mother tight. The house looks lovely, honey. Diane smiled, handing me flowers. Richard stepped in behind her, surveying our living room like he was mentally calculating our property value and finding it lacking. Phoebe, looking comfortable as always. He gave me a stiff hug. Where's Marcus? In the kitchen, finishing dinner. Still playing house husband? Richard chuckled, loud enough for Marcus to hear. Let's hope he doesn't burn the place down. I brought a bottle of proper wine just in case. Amy appeared. I told them you'd bring the good stuff. I caught Marcus's eye from the kitchen doorway. He gave me a small smile that didn't reach his eyes, and I felt that familiar burn of anger in my chest. Something smells interesting in here, Richard said, picking up a spoon and dipping it into Marcus's sauce without asking. He tasted it, his face screwing up slightly. Well, I suppose not everyone can master Italian cooking. I bit my tongue as Marcus placed the steaming bowls of pasta on our dining table. Everyone took their seats, with Richard naturally positioning himself at the head, though it wasn't his house. Let's toast to Diane on her birthday, Marcus said, raising his glass. To many more years of happiness and health. Everyone clinked glasses except Richard, who was busy examining the wine label with a frown. This isn't the vintage I recommended, he muttered. Passable, I suppose. It's lovely, Marcus, and the food smells wonderful. So, Marcus, Richard leaned forward. How are things at the high school? Still pushing those poetry books on uninterested teenagers? Marcus smiled politely. Actually, my students are pretty engaged. We're doing a unit on contemporary writers that's nice. Richard cut him off. I just closed a deal with that tech company. 7 figures. He turned to Mom. We should think about getting a vacation home in Aspen with the bonus. I remembered last Christmas. Richard cornering Marcus by the tree, loudly comparing their salaries while everyone could hear. Not everyone measures success in dollars, Richard, I said. Easy to say when you're not the one paying the bills, Richard chuckled. Right, Marcus? Amy joined in. Phoebe does make more as a graphic designer than Marcus does teaching. Just saying. I wasn't aware our finances were up for family discussion, Marcus replied, his voice steady but his knuckles white around his fork. Mom quickly changed the subject. Amy, how's the new apartment? The conversation shifted temporarily, but Richard wasn't done. Between bites of Marcus's homemade pasta, he kept dropping comments. You know, my buddy's son just made partner at his law firm. Now that's setting yourself up for life. Teaching's more of a hobby career, isn't it? I flashed back to our engagement dinner when Richard pulled Marcus aside and asked if he was man enough to provide for me. Teaching is one of the most important professions there is, Mom said firmly. Sure. Richard waved his hand. Important, but not exactly ambitious. I just wonder if Phoebe wouldn't be better off with someone with a bit more drive. The table went silent. Marcus stared down at his plate. What exactly are you implying? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. Richard shrugged. Just that a woman like you needs a real man, not someone who's basically a glorified babysitter. No offense, Marcus. How is that not offensive? Mom hissed. Richard laughed. Come on, we're family. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Phoebe needs someone who can match her fire, not... He gestured at Marcus. Marcus stood up. I'll get dessert ready, he said quietly, walking to the kitchen. I watched my husband's back as he left, saw the slight slump of his shoulders, and something inside me snapped. The same pattern over and over. Richard attacking, Marcus retreating to keep the peace, me saying nothing to avoid ruining family gatherings. Not this time. Not in our home. Not anymore. Enough is enough, I whispered, pushing back my chair. I stood up so fast my chair nearly toppled. The dining room fell silent as everyone turned to stare at me. You need to stop. Right now, I said, looking directly at Richard. Stop what? I'm just having a conversation. No, you're deliberately trying to humiliate my husband in our own home. You've been doing it for years, and I'm done letting it happen. Mom reached for my arm. Phoebe, honey, I'm sure Richard didn't mean anything by it. He absolutely meant it. I pulled away from her. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is a pattern. Amy rolled her eyes. Here we go with the drama. Richard was just joking around. Was he joking at Thanksgiving when he asked Marcus if he was man enough to fix the garage door? Or at Mom's anniversary party when he told everyone Marcus couldn't afford to buy me proper jewelry? Richard sighed. You're being oversensitive. That's how men talk to each other. No, that's how bullies talk. I pulled out my phone. I've been keeping notes, Richard. Dates, times, exactly what you said. I started after Christmas last year when you cornered Marcus and told him he should step aside if he couldn't provide for me properly. Richard's smug smile dropped away. You're exaggerating. January 15th, my birthday dinner. You asked Marcus if he needed to borrow money for my gift. February 8th, Super Bowl party. You told your golf buddies that Marcus throws like my dead grandmother. All right, enough. Richard slammed his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. If your husband can't take a little ribbing, it's not ribbing, it's harassment, and it stops today. Mom looked shocked. Phoebe, maybe we should all just calm down. I am calm. I'm just done being silent. Marcus appeared in the doorway, dessert plates in his hands, looking bewildered. Amy jumped in. Richard has always been supportive of this family. He paid for half my college tuition. And that makes it okay for him to treat Marcus like dirt? I shot back. Richard stood up. You're being ungrateful and disrespectful. If your husband is too sensitive to handle straight talk... My husband is twice the man you'll ever be, I cut in. He's kind, supportive, and doesn't need to tear others down to feel important. Richard pointed at Marcus. This is your doing. You've turned her against her family. I haven't said anything, Richard. You didn't have to, I said. I want you to leave. Now. The room went quiet. Richard looked at me like I'd slapped him. You can't be serious. Completely serious. Get out of my house. Mom stood up. Phoebe, it's my birthday dinner. And I'm sorry it's been ruined, but I'm not backing down this time. Richard looked to Amy for support, then to Mom. Diane, are you going to let her talk to me this way? Mom looked torn, glancing between us uncertainly. Either he leaves or we all leave, I said firmly. Richard grabbed his jacket. This is absurd. Diane, Amy, let's go. Amy immediately stood up. This is so typical, Phoebe. Always making everything about you. But Mom hesitated. Richard, maybe you did go a bit far. Richard's face darkened. Fine. Stay and coddle them. He stormed toward the door. Amy, are you coming? Amy gathered her purse, shooting me a venomous look. You've always been jealous of my relationship with Richard. They left, the front door slamming behind them, leaving the three of us in stunned silence. The week after the dinner disaster, my phone blew up with texts from Amy demanding I apologize to Richard. I deleted every single one. When Aunt Carol called to tell me I was tearing the family apart, I calmly explained what had really happened. I had no idea Richard was so cruel to Marcus, Aunt Carol said, her tone shifting. That's not right, honey. By the weekend, 3 more relatives had reached out, each sharing their own Richard stories, how he'd belittled Uncle Jim's business or mocked Cousin Sarah's college choice. Mom came over on Sunday, looking exhausted. Richard's furious, she said, stirring her tea. He wants me to cut you off until you apologize. And what do you want, Mom? I saw the list on your phone. Have you really been documenting all those incidents? I nodded. For over a year. Want to see? Her hands shook as she scrolled through my notes. I knew he could be harsh sometimes, but I didn't realize. Would you have believed me over him? Her silence was answer enough. 3 weeks later, Richard cornered me at Grandma's 80th birthday party. Your little tantrum has caused quite the stir, he said, blocking my path. But people will forget. They always do. Move out of my way. Your mom misses you. Amy, too. All you have to do is apologize, admit you overreacted. Not happening. I've been part of this family for 15 years. You really think they'll choose you and your wimpy husband over me? I'm the one who remembers birthdays, organizes vacations, loans money when they need it. You mean like how you hold Amy's condo down payment over her head? That's not generosity, it's control. You've made a serious mistake, Phoebe. Your mom's been crying every night. Because of you, not me. What's going on here? Mom appeared with a tray of appetizers. Just catching up? Richard said smoothly. Phoebe was just telling me how much she misses family dinners. Actually, I was telling him I won't apologize for standing up to a bully. Marcus joined us, placing a protective hand on my back. Everything okay here? Richard sneered. The cavalry arrives. Richard, please, Mom said. Can we just have one peaceful family event? Tell that to your daughter and her lapdog. The room went quiet as Grandma approached. What's all this about a lapdog? Nothing, Eleanor. Just a little family discussion. Sounded like you were insulting my granddaughter's husband, Grandma said sharply. In my day, men didn't talk to each other that way unless they were looking for a fight. With all due respect, this doesn't concern you. This is my birthday party, in my house, Grandma said coldly. Everything here concerns me. Mom stepped forward. Richard, I think you should leave. What did you say? You heard me. Go home. I'll be there later. We need to talk. Richard looked around at the family members staring now and stormed out. 2 days later, Mom called to tell me she'd asked Richard to move out. I should have seen it sooner. How he isolated me from everyone who disagreed with him. How he treated Marcus. Last Sunday, we had our first peaceful family dinner in years. Just Mom, Marcus, me, Grandma, and even Amy, who's starting to see Richard for who he really is, now that his money threats aren't working. I'm proud of you, Marcus told me later. Standing up to him couldn't have been easy. It wasn't. But watching my family heal without Richard's toxic presence made every uncomfortable moment worth it. What would you have done if you were in Phoebe's position? Would you have confronted Richard sooner or waited even longer for the sake of family peace? Have you ever had to stand up to a toxic family member, and what were the consequences? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your experiences and how you handled similar situations in your own life. If you enjoyed this story about standing up to toxic family members, give this video a like and subscribe to see more stories about overcoming difficult relationships. New videos every